What's going on there, guys? Welcome back to a new episode of 24 Hours In. For folks that are watching this episode for the first time and don't know what the 24 Hours In format is here on the Craftavore Tastes, let me give you a little refresher. So, concept behind the 24 Hours In format is that I'm going to give you a recommendation for a craft brewery, a craft bottle shop, a craft beer bar, and then a restaurant that has a super nice craft beer selection in a particular location, example, a city, so that if you were visiting this particular location and only had 24 hours to spend there, here are the recommendations from me to you of where you should absolutely hit up and check out. All right. So if you watched episode number 1 of 24 Hours in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, you'll kind of know the drill. So let's dig right into it. And this episode of 24 Hours In is going to be New York City, New York, or New York, New York. So for you guys that are obviously subscribers or you come back to the channel to watch my videos, you know that I was born and raised just outside of New York City in Westchester County. And now I live in northern New Jersey. So outside of the time that I spent in college, I basically lived in this area my entire life. So a lot of the recommendations I'm going to give to you in this episode, I hope are going to be kind of insider and from a local perspective. And honestly, some of them may be some selections that you perhaps not have heard before. They might be a little bit more off the beaten path, right? Because New York City is super tough. We have a tremendous amount of restaurants. We have a tremendous amount of craft beer bars, many of which have gotten a tremendous amount of press and accolades over the years. And so the fun really is when you can kind of get some of those kind of local insider recommendations and off the beaten path locations. I think that makes your trip to New York City that much more fun. All right, so that's the goal for today's episode. So let's dive straight into it. All right, so number 1, craft beer bottle shop. Many craft beer bottle shops in New York City have gotten a tremendous amount of hype. You know who they are. They are the usual suspects. I am going to steer you clear of them. The place that I'm going to recommend that you hit up if you want to pick up bottles and cans while in New York City is going to actually be the Food Emporium. It's a supermarket in Hell's Kitchen. Or the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood. Location is actually 8th Avenue and 49th Street. So it basically is a corner building. So right at the corner of 8th and 49th, or 49th and 8th, you'll see the door that leads you into the Food Emporium. You can't miss it. And so once you walk into the supermarket, what I ask you to do is simply take the escalator that'll be located on your left-hand side and go downstairs. Once you get downstairs, continue kind of walking north, straight ahead, I guess, or north, the way the building is positioned, and head back into the beer section. And what you are basically going to find is a mixture of, obviously, beers that are just placed on shelf warm, and then a tremendous amount of beers that are located in an extremely large cooler. And so I think that this Food Emporium is one of the best off the beaten path locations to buy beer in Manhattan that I've ever come across. I have found super, super rare beers there. I have found things like double barrel aged beers from Evil Twin. Back when Sip of Sunshine was still kind of a tough commodity to get, specifically in the New York City area, I would consistently find it there. They have releases from all of the, local New York City and 5 boroughs and beyond breweries within the New York City area. Obviously, there is not a tremendous amount of foot traffic that goes in there beyond normal shoppers. So I find that things kind of sit around on the shelves a little bit because I just don't know how many people honestly know how great the beer selection is at this Food Emporium. I don't know. So I would totally recommend that you hit up that Food Emporium. I don't hear it spoken about much. And so, I think it'll go in there and find yourself some super nice gems to take home with you from your trip to New York City. All right, so that is Bottle Shop. Let's take a little sip here of a nice little beer before we continue on. Okay, craft beer bar, another tough one. Tremendous amount of craft beer bars in New York City that have been around for a long time, get a tremendous amount of accolades. Some of the usual suspects, Blind Tiger, the Ginger Man, boy, Fool's Gold, God, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And then if you kind of remove yourself from Manhattan, obviously you have Torst, or that's Yep's place from Evil Twin. I'm probably mispronouncing the name of that beer bar. There's umlauts and all that other fun stuff. So, and obviously Brooklyn has their, Mission Dolores. I mean, my God, the list goes on and on and on. I'm going to give you my favorite craft beer bar in the city, and it's for a couple of reasons. One, it's in, obviously, Manhattan, right? So the island of Manhattan. That's where most people who are coming into New York City are going to end up staying. So I'm trying to keep things kind of relative to that particular area, just because it's a little bit easier to get around the island of Manhattan versus having to, pop out to Brooklyn or Queens or anything like that. It's my favorite craft beer bar in Manhattan, and my recommendation that you should hit up when you are there is As is the name of it. ASIS, As Is. It's located on 10th Avenue between 50th and 51st Street. And there's a couple of reasons why I really dig this craft beer bar, amongst others, or over others. One, I always find that they have one of the best curated draft lists or tap lists in the entire city. You are always going to get there, and you are going to have other half beers there. You are going to have Finback beers, Interborough beers. Just a lot of the obvious, New York City hype breweries are always going to be featured there for you to be able to have. So if you want to go and have a really kind of good surrounding of just kind of super uber kind of local New York City breweries, As is a really good place to go. The second thing that I really like about them is their glassware. So they previously used to actually serve beers in kind of that Hill Farmstead balloon style glass. They still have some of these, although they have transitioned over to the Teku mostly. But a Teku's freaking awesome too, right? So, oftentimes I never really found a craft beer bar that had these glasses. And so I walked in there and I was like, wow, man, that's freaking cool. And if you're a glass whore like I am and a glass snob, going to a place that has, super nice, awesome glassware, I don't know. It kind of makes the trip. And, I'm not going to tell you that it makes the beer taste better, although, many people will agree that it does and helps accentuate aromas and all those other fun things. And it does. But I mean, it's just a nice experience when you're drinking out of kind of super, super nice and proper glassware. So that's the other item I like about As Is. They've also recently added a food program. The other thing that I like about it is they don't have any televisions. When I want to go to a sports bar, I want to go to a sports bar and I want TVs and I want to watch a game. When I'm drinking kind of craft beer and I kind of want to geek out a little bit and I want to kind of talk with friends and things like that, I'll go to As Is. All right. So no televisions. It's really more about conversation. It's really more about the beer. So if you want to, if you're in the mood to kind of go and geek out, again, really great place to go. Fourth, the bartenders are super, super knowledgeable. I've talked to a bunch of them, and I have to admit, every single time I've gone in there, I've gotten in 30, 40, 1-hour conversations with everybody that's worked there. Super knowledgeable, very, very friendly, willing to kind of talk to you about certain things, and every single time I've gone there, I've had an amazing time. 5, they've recently added a food program as well. And it's kind of super simple stuff, right? Like there's some flatbreads on there, sandwiches, things of that nature. I think they might, it's not the most blown out menu, but if you're kind of looking for something to kind of nosh on while you're just knocking out a bunch of different beers, it's a good place to go. All right. So that's my craft beer bar. As Is, 10th Avenue, 50th and 51st Street, or 10th Avenue between 50th and 51st. All right. Restaurant is next. All right, so this one is damn near impossible. Given all the restaurants in New York City and the surrounding 5 boroughs, it's nearly impossible for me to give you one singular recommendation, right? There's a restaurant literally for everything. There are restaurants with tremendous craft beer lists, and so it's really hard for me to be able to zero down to one. So I went a little bit different. The place that I'm going to recommend for you to hit up to eat and then kind of have some amazing, awesome beers on the side is a small little joint called BXL Cafe. BXL Cafe is actually a tiny, hole-in-the-wall Belgian beer bar where, hold on for it, gasp, is located literally a block from Times Square. That's damn near heresy. Okay? If you're coming into New York City as a tourist, it's cool. You want to check out Times Square, right? But being as a local, recommending anything anywhere near Times Square is the absolute wrong thing to do, except for BXL Cafe. So as I said, it's a really small Belgian beer bar, hole in the wall. You really can't miss it because it's located on 43rd Street between 6th and 7th Avenue. And there is a red Vespa that's parked out in front of the actual bar. You cannot miss it. You will trip over it if you're not careful walking down the sidewalk. So the reason why I love this place so much is they have a tremendous amount of just super legit and authentic Belgian beers. Now, we're not talking Cantillon or anything like that, but I mean super authentic, right? Le Hoblan Chouf, things of that nature, right? Orvals spanning back years, a really awesome and authentic Belgian bar that also serves some of the best moule frite, or mussels and fries, in the city, in my opinion. So if you dig moule frites and you dig Belgian beers and you want a really kind of unpretentious place to have dinner where you can just kind of kick back, enjoy yourself in a hole-in-the-wall, super homey kind of place and not spend a tremendous amount of money, BXL Cafe is a really, really good place to go. All right, so that's my restaurant. I realize that's a little bit probably, a little different than what you may have been thinking, but I happen to love the place, and I think it's a place that a lot of people honestly don't know about, and I think you should check out. Last, but certainly not least, Brewery. This one was tough for me. The reason being is every single recommendation that I've given you so far has been actually in Manhattan, right? The Isle of Manhattan. There aren't really any breweries in Manhattan. None of the, kind of new breweries that opened up in the last number of years, right? The Single Cuts of the world, the Finbacks of the world, the Interboroughs of the world, the other halves of the world. None of them are located in Manhattan, okay? They're all in the outer boroughs, so Queens and or Brooklyn. And so it would be really, really disingenuous of me to not recommend what I probably consider to be New York City's best craft brewery, and that, of course, is Other Half Brewing out of Gowanus in Brooklyn. So they are located at 195 Central Street in Brooklyn, New York. Obviously, Other Half is tremendously hyped, probably known by the vast majority of you, regardless of where you live in the country. And so when you're out here, what I would say is hop yourself in an Uber, or perhaps take the train. Head out to Brooklyn and, maybe center it in and around a can release and pick up some cans, and then head obviously into their tasting room to get some growlers and, have some obviously beers on site. Other Half is an amazing, amazing world-class brewery, and probably, like I said, the most well-known and best brewery that we have here in New York City. All right, so that's going to do it for this episode of 24 Hours in New York, New York. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you come and visit. And if you do, ping me in the comments section and let me know when you're coming in. Maybe we'll get an opportunity to meet up in the city and have a beer together. All right, so if you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe to the Craftavore Tastes. And that'll do it for this episode. Hope you join me again for another episode where I'll probably drink, review, rate, and repeat, or I'll give you some recommendations on that next place where you're spending 24 hours in. Cheers, guys.